Hi, this is Renata. I'm creating this video on community-based harassment because as I continue to deal with the widest variety of community-based harassment imaginable, it seems like it's getting more bizarre. The street theater is getting more bizarre by the day. And it made me think about how I'm forced to deal with this community-based harassment constantly. Pretty much anywhere I go at this point. Simple things like going to the store, going to the doctor's office, going to get gas, going anywhere is made into a whole psychological production. I have not shopped at a clothing store, at a grocery store, anywhere in peace in the last at least 7 to 8 years. I'm accustomed to it. I know how to deal with it now. I know how to not let it trigger me. But the past couple of days episodes just had me thinking about how well oiled this whole machine is. And I call it a machine. It's a program. But I call it a machine because it's very well oiled and it has a lot of components, a lot of people involved. Very well organized. It just made me think about how vast this program is and how these people are able to get what seems like the entire community, meaning neighbors, meaning businesses, meaning all kinds of delivery companies, mail people, fire, the entire community, how they're able to get so many people involved. And it made me think about that and how these people all work together to harass one innocent person. And it's sickening. It's very sickening to me. So I wanted to just get behind the scenes on some of this to put together, try to piece together what helps these people to justify their torturous behavior and how these people are protected in what they do as they administer their psychological operations on the target. Now, I've already known about a lot of these programs and a lot of these black operation programs I'm sure I don't know about, but I wanted to put together, for the sake of this video, a few of them. This is just a few of them, and the more I researched, the more I found. So I don't want this to be an extra long video, although I'm kind of thinking it might be, because there's just so much that goes into this. And as I said, a lot of these are black operations, government sponsored programs, and so these people they're justified in what they're doing. They have protection of law enforcement. They have protection of whoever is behind this program, which I believe is government. Because there's no way you can get the fire department, the police department, the mail carriers. There's just no way you could get all of these government, city employees, county employees, state employees, hospital workers. You could not get all of these people involved in a regular citizen's harassment if there wasn't this monstrous government funding, government backing, government support behind it. So my opinion is it's government. I've heard other targets say that it's not, and it may not be for every target, but for my harassment, absolutely. Government is definitely involved. How can you get helicopters to fly over people's homes and to follow them? How can you get the highway patrol involved? How can you get the doctors involved? It's government. So I want to start off with the definition that Wikipedia gives for harassment. Harassment covers a wide range of behaviors of an offensive nature. It is commonly understood as behavior intended to disturb or upset and is characteristically repetitive. In the legal sense, it is intentional behavior which is found threatening and disturbing. Okay. And it is very offensive, and it is very threatening, meant to threaten, meant to intimidate, meant to disturb your peace. It's meant. And where it says it's repetitive, it is repetitive because they know that the repetition of doing this, of being relentless with this, of keeping this operation going 24/7, they know that for most people, it will eventually throw them over the edge. And also, I believe that by using the community, by using these seemingly everyday citizens, even family members, to harass a person, it removes the government. It removes them. You can't really trace it back to them. I believe this is why they use regular citizens. And also, government can't be everywhere at every time, so they use the community to harass. So according to Wikipedia, the different types of harassment are electronic, landlord, mobile, online, police, power, psychological, racial, religious, sexual, and workplace. And I've experienced just about all of the above. So I'm going to go into a little bit about who's involved. Well, I sort of did that, but I just kind of jotted down a little list. And I know that for everyone's targeting, it varies from person to person. So this is definitely not a complete list. And I will go more into my community-based harassment in a minute. But I just wanted to kind of go through some of the people who are involved. And this is definitely, again, not a complete list. But this is just some of the things that I've noticed in my own targeting, and I've heard other TIs complain about these same things. Neighborhood watch groups, which we'll go into more of that. Neighbors, could be your immediate neighbors. You live in an apartment building, house, whatever. And they normally do like their synchronizing, coming and going when you go, and all these other tactics and things to try to irritate you. Ambulances, fire trucks, police and law enforcement at all levels. Tow trucks, lawn keepers, I forget what you call those people, but the people who keep the lawns. Some of them are involved. And again, I'm going to use the word some because not all of any group is involved. They want you to believe that, but not all police, not all ambulance, not all tow trucks. So let's just establish that from the beginning. It's not all of anybody. But these are just some that I've noticed with my own targeting. Construction workers, dog walkers, church members. I want to touch on the church for just a second, although I'm going to do a whole video on the church. But we hear about the, what is the name of that church? The Church of Scientology a lot with the stalking and some of the other churches, but it's not just exclusive to them. It's the Catholic Church, it's the Christian Church, it's the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's many church groups are involved. Schools are involved, college campuses, even children's schools at every level. Elementary, middle school, high school. Bullying is rampant at the schools. And bullying is just another form of targeting. It's another form of targeting. Hospitals, doctors, staff members of hospitals, auto mechanics, buses, big rigs, and of course you have your everyday stalkers with their harassment tactics. taxi cabs, security guards, highway patrols, dry cleaners, beauty shops, just about any kind of store you can think of, restaurants, armored trucks. I'm constantly followed by armored trucks. Black Lincoln Town cars. I get those all the time with government license plates. Another reason why I know it's government for me. So, these are people that are in the community. These people are where you are. They're out in the community. And so they're used. They are used to be the eyes and the ears. Now, of course, this is it's supposed to be a covert operation, so not much of it gets media attention, but there have been some instances that have made the news. I know in Santa Cruz, California, believe it was a police sergeant. He got on the news and he acknowledged it, acknowledged community-based harassment. And you'll see things here and there. Dr. Phil show had actually I've seen 3 targets on the Dr. Phil show, and he tried to discredit all of them, saying that they were schizophrenic. We know how that goes. That's one of the things they do to the targets. So, every now and then you'll see some of this on the news. You had Rick and Cindy Clerch, I think was their last name. They were on 2020 saying how they get the neighbors honk at them, and it was because they wanted to buy property from foreclosed property, and it was a retired police chief's family's property that had been foreclosed on, and they wanted to purchase that land, and he asked them not to purchase it. They said they were going to do it anyway, which they eventually did not, but he put them in the program. And so we had all these neighbors coming by and honking their horns, and he caught it all on film because he had a really expensive surveillance system, which, by the way, is good to get if you can get one for your house. And I actually spoke with him on the phone. Another T.I., Scott, got his number for me, and I spoke with him on the phone, and so he was able to tell me about some of the things that he has gone through, and he said that it is just relentless. And by the way, thank you, Scott, for that phone number. But he was saying how the harassment was just relentless, and how he has filed all of these lawsuits trying to get these people to stop it. But we know that this community-based harassment doesn't stop. The more you complain about it, the more you mention it, the more they do, the more they give you. So I was trying to explain that to him. And also, I do believe that because of all these lawsuits he's filing, that's just another way of them trying to deplete his funds. Because as we know, most targets don't win their lawsuits. There have been a few that I know of that have, but it costs money to get these attorneys, who a lot of times are involved as well. It costs money to file these lawsuits. So he has these 30, 40 lawsuits. I can't remember how many he told me, but it still hasn't stopped. It still hasn't stopped, and they have them very sensitized to the horn honking. So this is what they do. And there have been a few others that have hit the media, but for the most part, as you all know, we really have not so far gotten too much help. There has been some, but not really. I don't know anyone who has gotten it well, I'll take that back. There have been 2 or 3 targets who have said that they've got it to stop all the way. Has not been the case for me. My harassment has been pretty severe from the beginning. They had me really in a serious state of fear at one time. That's no longer, but that's the way it used to be for me, and that's the way it is for most targets. My targeting goes in peaks, like most people. It just depends, because I'm into activism. So if I'm going to do an activist effort, my targeting will really, really, really increase that week. or the week before to try to prevent me from going or doing whatever it is that I want to do. But I know not to stop, because I know the goal of this program, but it does go in peaks like that, which it does for most targets. The main form of community-based harassment that I get, that has been consistent from the very beginning, is the police harassment, the constant following, the constant surveillance, which I'm going to do a whole video on the police harassment, so I won't go into that right now. But the whole law enforcement thing, and the grocery store or the department store, or just about any business I go to, I deal with harassment mainly from the employees. I do get the regular perps as well. I get those. I get them on the road. I get them on the foot. I get all of that too. But for some reason, they love to harass me with employees at the stores. One of the things that they do the most is they love to threaten me with shopping carts. The minute I arrive at the store, usually the people who are collecting the carts are somewhere right by my car. And they usually push the carts towards me, directly towards me. It'll be a whole line of carts, and 10, 20, 30, 40 carts, and they collect them all, and they're usually coming right towards me. So it kind of started there. Now it has progressed to just about anything pushable or movable, and it's getting more bizarre by the day. The other day, I was driving, and a guy had a refrigerator in the middle of the street coming towards me, and it was actually comical because I could tell that he was frustrated because he tried, they synchronize, and so they line up with you at the exact time, and they do all of that kind of stuff. So this guy, I could tell he expected me to be at the intersection at a certain time. He tried to time it right, but there was a car in front of me. So he's pushing this refrigerator. The refrigerator was not on any kind of wheels or anything, so he's pushing it in the middle of the street, and he tried to go around the car that was in front of me so that he could land the refrigerator in front of me. Just bizarre. It's just bizarre. And you know that these things are directed at you because they keep happening over and over and over, no matter where you go. So I deal with that, with the carts and the things on wheels and all these things always coming towards me, just about any store I go to. And I also deal with janitors. Janitors appear out of nowhere constantly. It could be on the street. It could be at a business. It could be at work. It could be at the grocery store. It could be anywhere. The reason they do the janitor thing with me is because they used a janitor at my job for many, many years to harass me. And I'm going to do a workplace mobbing video as well, so I won't go into that right now. But they've used this person for years. And she and other people at work also do the whole cart theme as well with me. And recently she ran over my foot with a cart at work. And I've been assaulted with carts more than once. Most of the time it's the threat of the cart coming towards me, but I've actually been assaulted with carts. The Costco employee ran her cart into me. I complained about that. Nothing. Trader Joe's, same thing. The employee ran her cart into me. So you have to deal with all of this, and all of this is the community thing. Now I understand that all of this is to instill fear, is to attempt to keep the target controlled, but they also want to bring out aggression in you. They want you to assault one of the people that is assaulting you, which I guess would probably be totally legal if you weren't a target, that is, because you're defending yourself. However, as we know, with targeting, we know how that goes. It will all be turned around on the target. And of course, they would conveniently say they don't have the video from the store to show what really happened, which is what they've told me more than once. But my point is that, they want to, this is a behavior modification program, and they want to change who you are. So they want to bring out the aggression so that they can lock you up in one of their institutions. They want you to fall into depression. They want you to have feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. They want to induce suicidal thoughts in you. They want you to just think that, it's over. There's no help for you. There's no, but me being a Christian, I'll never believe that. I will never believe it. I know that there's hope. I know that though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we do not have to fear evil because God is with us. And these people are evil. They're dark. They're satanic. And I won't stop my life. And nor should any target stop their lives. This is what they want. They want you to feel like you shouldn't go out in the community. They want you to feel like you're not welcomed in the community. Well, I welcome myself into the community. I don't need them to welcome me. They have no problem taking my money. They have no problem collecting my taxes. So it all belongs to me just as well as it belongs to them. That's how I see it. And that's how every target should see it. So I want to go into some of these programs because I'm digressing here. I really wanted to do some research on how these seemingly normal people out in the community who appear to just be working on their jobs, when you go to these fast food restaurants and other restaurants and department stores, and everything just looks like they're just working and, they're just doing their jobs, And then you get in there and the grocery store becomes a torture chamber. These people remind me of extras in a movie. Everything is a big act. It just looks like they're just going along their day, and then they torture you. So I wanted to get behind what justifies these people from doing this. What is the protection that they have from the government, from the local law enforcement who seems to protect these people? I wanted to get behind that. So I pulled up some of the programs that I've heard about, and I just kind of want to give you an overview. One of them is Operation TIPS. And the TIPS is acronym for Terrorism Information and Prevention System. Now this was, and this definition says was, but as we know, just like they said, COINTELPRO was dismantled, but we know that it just came back stronger under a new name, targeted individual, and with more technology. So when I read these definitions and they say was, I discard that because I know what's happening in my targeting, and these programs still is, not was, they still are in existence. So Operation TIPS, the acronym is Terrorism Information and Prevention Systems, was a domestic intelligence gathering program designed by President George W. Bush to have United States citizens report suspicious activity. The program's website implied that the U.S. workers who had access to private citizens' homes, such as cable installers and telephone repair workers, would be reporting on what was in people's homes if it were deemed suspicious. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. President Bush. Now, a lot of these programs were put in place after 9/11. Okay, we already know the real deal behind 9/11, so no need to go into that. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there telling the truth, what I believe to be the truth about 9/11. But 9/11 was used to put in place a lot of these programs. A lot of them existed before 9/11. We know that, but 9/11 was the guise used to put a lot of these in place. Okay, so this program, Operation TIPS, was put in place for the United States citizens. That's your neighbors, that's your employers, that's your doctors, that's the people in your community, to report suspicious activity. Now, my problem with that is what may be suspicious to one person may not be suspicious to the next person. So to leave that, what's the word I'm looking for? To leave that judgment up to an individual who may be a criminal themselves, by the way, is just not right. Okay, and then it goes on to say, such as cable installers, so that's the people coming to install your cable television. You know, you just moved and they're going to hook up your cable. They have the authority under Operation TIPS to look around your house. If they see anything quote unquote suspicious, they can report you. Spies. Okay, then it goes on to say telephone repair workers. Okay, that's the people installing your phones. That's the people in the neighborhood that you see at these telephone boxes, just climbing the poles. These people can also report you. Okay, so they can, going on with this article, it says they would be reporting on what was in people's homes if it were deemed suspicious. Okay, and there's more to that. You can look that up, Operation TIPS, T-I-P-S. Okay, then you have the See Something, Say Something campaign. I believe this started on the East Coast and then spread to other U.S. cities. Okay, so the definition for that is across the nation, we're all part of communities. In cities, on farms, and in the suburbs, we share everyday moments with our neighbors, colleagues, families, and friends. It's easy to take for granted the routine moments in our everyday going to work or school, the grocery store, or the gas station. But your everyday is different than your neighbor's everyday, filled with the moments that make it uniquely yours. So if you see something you know shouldn't be there, or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right, say something, because only you know what's supposed to be in your everyday. Now this is from the See Something, Say Something website. First of all, they're making everybody a therapist when they're saying, so if you see something you know shouldn't be there, or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right, say something. Everybody's not a behaviorist. They don't know what is right and what is not for every single person, first of all. And that's just not right to just say, to just give people the license to just snitch, basically, on anybody. It could be someone that has a personal vendetta against you. They don't like you. So they just call you in and say something suspicious is going on. Everybody's on this terrorist watch list all of a sudden. It's ridiculous. Okay, let me go on with the See Something, Say Something. July 2010, the Department of Homeland Security launched a national If You See Something, Say Something campaign, a simple and effective program to raise public awareness of indicators of terrorism and terrorism-related crime, and to emphasize the importance of reporting suspicious activity to the proper state and local enforcement authorities. So these people can just turn you in. The If You See Something, Say Something campaign was originally implemented by New York City's Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or MTA, who licensed the use of the slogan to DHS for anti-terrorism or anti-terrorism crime efforts. Now, I'm all for the fact that there should not be terrorism in our country or in any country. it should definitely be stopped. But everybody is not a terrorist. To make everyone a suspect is just not right. It's just not right. And innocent people are being targeted under these programs. Totally innocent people. Whoever decided to put our names on this list has us targeted under these programs. Okay, so that's the see something, say something program. And there's more on that one too. You can look that up. Then you have the TLO, or the Terrorism Liaison Officer. Let me find that one. I just had that one. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, a Terrorism Liaison Officer, or TLO, is a public citizen in the United States of America who has been trained to report suspicious activity that may be encountered during the course of his or her normal occupation as part of the United States War on Terror. I'm getting frustrated reading this, because why are targeted individuals, people who are being singled out to be targeted, why are they falling under these definitions of terrorists and war on terror? I just see it time after time reading these descriptions. Everything is talking about terrorists and terroristic activity and wars on terror, and all of these programs are describing exactly what happens to the targeted individual. Okay, going back to this Terrorism Liaison Officer. While some of these individuals are members of local law enforcement agencies, others, such as paramedics, utility workers, and railroad employees, have all been recruited into the program. So all of these people described here are recruited into watching and reporting, quote unquote, again, suspicious activity. So these terrorism liaison officers are members of your local law enforcement, police, security guards, private security, FBI agents, CIA. They're all local. They have local FBI offices around here, and I'm sure in most U.S. cities. Paramedics. So there's your ambulances. That's why they follow you. Utility workers. That's your gas, water, electric. That's why they follow you. You'll notice those cars out there following some TIs. Not everybody gets the same thing. We know that. Railroad employees. That's your train conductor. And their employees. So that could be the people at the front desk. That could be the janitors. All of these people, according to this definition of a terrorism liaison officer, all of these people have been recruited. Okay? Alrighty. Then you have your good old neighborhood watch groups. They're right there in your neighborhoods. Okay. I'm going to read something from their website. Neighborhood Watch is one of the oldest and most effective crime prevention program in the country, bringing citizens together with law enforcement to deter crime and make communities safer. Sponsored by the National Sheriff's Association, or the NSA, Neighborhood Watch. And notice how these most of these groups work with the NSA, Department of Homeland Security, FBI. This is why I know it's government. Neighborhood Watch can trace its roots back to the days of colonial settlements when night watchmen patrolled the streets. That reminds me of George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin. He was Neighborhood Watch, right? Patrolling the streets. The modern version of Neighborhood Watch was developed in response to requests from the sheriffs and police chiefs who were looking for a crime prevention program that would involve citizens and address an increasing number of burglaries. Launched in 1972, Neighborhood Watch counts on citizens to organize themselves and work with law enforcement to keep a trained eye and ear in their communities. Now, in case you didn't hear that, let's go back. Neighborhood Watch counts on citizens. That's your neighbors. That's your school teachers. That's your police officers. That's your people at the store. That's the people at the cleaners. That's the people at the gas station. That's the people at the nail salon. These are all citizens. And they say they count on these people to organize themselves. So they get together amongst themselves. They're organizing themselves and work with law enforcement. So they're working with the FBI. They're working with the local police. They're working with the sheriffs to keep a trained eye and ear on their communities. To keep a trained eye. How did the eye get trained? Because they received training. They received government training from the local police. There are police that are assigned to individual communities. So if you're in a particular district, there's usually a police assigned to that district. These are the people who train these people, so that they can keep an eye and ear on their communities while demonstrating their presence at all times of the day and night. So how long? 24 hours. They said they demonstrate their presence all times. Not some, all the time they're watching, day and night. The program took off quickly in just 10 years. NSA data showed that 12% of the population was involved in a neighborhood watch. Neighborhood Watch works because it reduces opportunities for crime to occur. It doesn't rely on altering or changing the criminal's behavior or motivation. Again, I want to reiterate, I'm all for safe neighborhoods. I'm all for safe communities. I'm all for nonviolence. But it's when these tools are misused and abused and not used to protect everyone. Not some of the people, all of the people. TIs are not protected under these programs. These programs are used against the target, not for the target. I can tell you many instances of things that have happened to me and my family and my community where there was no neighborhood watching 24 hours to let me know who stole my car, who put a dead black cat in front of my house, who egged my house, and it goes on and on. So these people are involved in targeting and harassment, and that's the problem I have. If this were working effectively to stop crime, and I'm sure it does stop some crime, from real criminals, but when you are using these programs to harass innocent people, that's a problem. That's a problem. And you have the backing of law enforcement. That's a real problem. Okay, so it goes on to say, this is Neighborhood Watch still. Tips: work with the police or sheriff's office. These agencies are critical to a watch group's credibility and are the source of necessary information and training. So again, they are being trained by the police and the sheriff. And they said it's critical that they are trained by these people, by the law enforcement. Link up with your victims services office to link up with your victim services office to get your members trained in helping victims of crime. Well, I'm a victim of crime. They've never helped me. I wonder if they've helped any other TIs. They may have. I don't know. Because like I said, there's good and bad everywhere. Maybe they've helped some of you. Okay, hold regular meetings to help residents get to know each other and to decide upon program strategies and activities. Consider linking with an existing organization such as citizens associations, community development office, tenants association, or housing authority. They may be able to provide an existing infrastructure you can use. Canvass door to door to recruit members. Maybe that's how it spreads throughout the community when Target is around. Ask people who seldom leave their homes to be window watchers, looking out for children and reporting any unusual activities in the neighborhood. So you have your window watchers. Translate crime and drug prevention materials into Spanish or other languages needed by non-English speakers in your community. Sponsor a crime and drug prevention fair at a church hall, a temple, a shopping mall, or community center. Gather the facts about crime in your neighborhood. Check police reports. Conduct victimization surveys. And learn residents' perceptions about crimes. Often residents' opinions are not supported by facts, and accurate information can reduce the fear of crime. Physical conditions like abandoned cars or overgrown vacant lots contribute to crime. Okay, so they do some good things. Sponsor cleanup. Encourage residents to beautify the area. Okay, that's a good thing. Work with small businesses to clean up litter in the streets. Emphasize that watch groups are not vigilantes and should not assume the role of the police. Their duty is to ask neighbors to be alert, observant, and caring, and to report suspicious activity or crimes immediately to the police. These people are not police, as this says, but they definitely act in police roles, and they feed information to the police. They absolutely do. I've gone to a community watch meeting. Well, it wasn't officially a community watch meeting. It was more of a, I don't remember the exact title, but it was police bringing awareness to the community type thing. And community, they were in different rooms, and I went to the one that had the community watch people in there, and there were some community police in there as well. And I and a couple other targets, we asked them if they knew about organized stalking, and I mean, they got so belligerent. First of all, we kept raising our hands, and they would not acknowledge us. They kept skipping over us. And so that told me right there that they knew that we were targets, and they could tell the kind of questions we were going to ask, and they didn't want those questions asked. But we finally got to ask our question. We were cut off a couple of times, but we eventually were able to ask our questions, and they were not happy when we asked about targeting. They all denied it. And they kept cutting us off, so you could tell that they knew about targeting, because we were asking, what do you do about, what are you guys doing about the stalkers that are in the area and people being targeted in the community? And they just wouldn't have it. They would not have it. They ended the meeting early. It was a mess. So they definitely, some of them definitely know about targeting. That's for sure. Okay, then there's another program, and it's a federal program to recruit college students to spy on college campuses. Give me a moment while I pull that one up. Okay, this is called How the Feds Are Recruiting Spies at Campuses Across the U.S. I have this one on my website. In July 2005, a select group of 15 to 19-year-old high school students participated in a week-long summer program called Spy Camp in the Washington, D.C. area. The program included a field trip to the CIA's headquarters in Langley, Virginia, an intelligence simulation exercise, and a visit to the $35 million International Spy Museum. According to the Spy Museum's website, visiting groups have the option of choosing from 3 different scavenger hunts in which teams are pitted against one another in activities ranging from code breaking to deceptive maneuvers. Each team will be armed with a top secret bag of tricks to solve challenging questions that can be found in the museum. Okay, on the surface, the program sounds like fun and games. After reading about the program, one might guess that it was organized by an imaginative social studies teacher. But for some, Spy Camp was more than just fun and games. It was serious business. The high school program was carried out by Trinity University of Washington, D.C., a predominantly African American university with an overwhelmingly female student population. As part of a pilot program grant from the U.S. Office of Director of National Intelligence, the DNI, to create an intelligence community center of academic excellence. According to the Office of the DNI, the goal of the IC Center program is to increase the pool of future applicants for careers in the CIA, the FBI, the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA, and the dozen or so other organizations that make up the U.S. intelligence community. In less euphemistic terms, American spy agencies. Okay, so these college students go through this camp, this extensive training to become spies on the campuses and future CIA, FBI agents. The idea for the IC centers came across in the wake of September 11th, back to September 11th, when both the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives held hearings about the country's spy agencies' missed clues that might have foiled the World Trade Center and Pentagon attacks. So they're saying that there were clues that they could have honed in on, and possibly the September attacks would not have happened. And so because they realized that they had missed some of these clues, this is what prompted them to create this spy camp for these college students. Okay, let me skip around a little bit. For this reason, the IC Center program wasn't aimed at students attending Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or other Ivy League schools or internationally renowned universities like Stanford or Berkeley or the University of Chicago. The program's architects consciously directed it at schools where minority students are the majority, predominantly African American and Latino universities, which are chronically underfunded. Perhaps this reflects the shape of multiculturalism in a militarized society. The government's spy agencies and armed forces recruit minority students from low-income regions in order to monitor and infiltrate people or targets that look and speak like them. In other words, they intentionally trained Latinos and African Americans and put these newly trained spies in schools and college campuses around the U.S. because they wanted them to blend in or infiltrate other Latinos and African Americans. So the Latinos and African Americans, for the sake of this spy camp here, the targets were directly black people and Hispanic people. And they put these spies that looked just like them so that they wouldn't know that they were being spied upon, so that they could befriend them, they could set them up, and they could target them. And this is what happened here. And this is what is still happening. If you go to school or have gone to school, you probably have noticed that your targeting continues there. And so this could be why. This is by no means the first time that the U.S. military and intelligence agencies have funneled large sums of money into universities to advance their interests. The 1958 National Defense Education Act led to the creation of dozens of language and area studies programs focused in Russia, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. But those centers generally did not limit scholars' abilities to pursue a wide range of research, including critical social science research building upon anti-imperial and leftist scholarships. By contrast, there are clear indications that the IC centers and other new recruitment programs have much more focused and narrowed objectives that threaten core educational values that have underpinned American universities for years. Judging from some students' responses, it seems that the D&I programs are making an impact. News reports from college newspapers began to tell the story. Naham Hassan, a 19-year-old student at Trinity University, said, "It's a good opportunity. I have interest in the FBI." Reagan Thomas, who is 17, told a reporter, "I want to be a spy when I grow up. You learn different perspectives and it opens your mind." Miriam Fotley, also 17, said, "I was like, oh my God, I am so joining the FBI." See, so, I mean, they've been trained at a young age, so why wouldn't they? You know, they already have the free training, so they're going to go into a career as a spy. This is what they want to do. You get to travel. This is what one person said, one of these teenagers. You get to travel to do something different every day. You're challenged in your work, and you get to serve your country. How cool is that? You know what? That would be great if it was legitimate work, and I'm sure some of it is, where they are really trying to stop terrorism, but to prey on innocent people is wrong. And a lot of these people who they're using to target people and they're using to spy on people in this community-based harassment, a lot of these people really may not know that they are targeting innocent people. I do believe that. I do believe that many of them know exactly what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. Many of them know exactly that they are preying upon innocent people. But some of them really don't. Some of them really don't. These children who have been hired, they probably, like this person said, it's an honor to serve your country. You know, to bring down these corrupted people or these terrorists. You know, and then it really would be a good thing. But little do they know, these people have them preying on innocent people sometimes. You and I, innocent people. The picture that emerges from these and other comments is that students are drawn to the IC centers because they offer exciting, challenging experiences that will serve the country. And I'm sure these people get serious adrenaline rushes when they target people. I mean, they love it. Not unlike the reasons that many young people decide to enlist in the armed forces. Television series that glorify law enforcement, CSI, crime scene investigation, intelligence operatives, and military personnel have greatly romanticized these careers. University administrators and faculties like the IC centers for other reasons. Obviously, there are the issues of funding and job placement for graduating students, but some also emphasize the importance of building an ethically and culturally diverse pool of intelligence agents who might blend in more easily abroad. So these people, I mean, what young person doesn't want to travel? I mean, they make these spy jobs so appealing. Little do they know, these spies get killed. I read a story a while ago. I'm going to try to remember a young lady that got caught up in this here, something very similar to this. But what happened with her is she had gotten busted for having some kind of drugs on her. She was a young college student. She, I'm trying to remember, she had a small amount of weed, I think it was. It was some kind of drugs, and I forget where she was, going through the airport or something. And she got caught with these drugs on her, and she got arrested. And she was terrified to tell her parents. She was maybe 17, 18, 19. And they made a plea deal with her that she could get out of jail if she became a spy. And so she did it. She thought it was just one time that she'd have to do this, but They continue making her do this. Long story short, eventually she, the people who she was spying on found out that she was a spy and they killed her. So what I'm trying to say is these young people don't even understand what they're getting involved in. It goes deeper than what they can even imagine, but they're excited about it because they get to travel and they get this whole adrenaline rush and they get to follow people and they get all these perks, and I'm sure they get free hotel and cars to drive. And I mean, I can go on and on with the stories that I've read about these people that are used to spy on people and to infiltrate and things like that. So I pray for them. They don't understand. These same people that are doing this to us, they're going to turn on them. They're going to turn on them. Okay. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence promoted the IC Center program heavily during its first few years of existence. The original IC Center program plan is a 25-page document that clearly lays out goals and procedures. Under the title Pre-College High School Outreach is the subheading Summer Camp for Elementary and Junior High Students. The program plan notes institutions may consider coordinating summer camps for junior high school students. The camp should be at least 1 week in duration with high energy programs that excite the participation. They should focus on developing the critical skills of thinking before you act. Though it is not clear whether or not elementary and junior high students have been included in IC programs so far, the Office of D&I clearly supports this idea. The CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, National Security Agency, and Defense Intelligence agencies all have kid page websites that includes games, puzzles, and occasionally sanitized histories of the agencies. Nearly all universities that have received funding for the IC centers have created high school outreach programs. This definitely happens at schools of all levels. They recruit children into this. Stalkers, in my observation, some stalkers who have small children, they train them very small. Very small. Gone are the days where children would not be caught dead snitching. I'm sure you all remember those days. Kids would not be caught dead snitching on anybody. Now, they have no problem with it. They probably pay them a little something, or give them a little something depending on the age, and they don't have a problem with it. Okay, I'm going to read one more paragraph of this. What makes the new IC centers across the country different from other institutions or research centers? Though there are numerous differences from one school to the next, several universities appear to be involved in 3 kinds of activities apart from high school outreach programs like Spy Camp. Curriculum development, and I'm not going to read the definition because it's too long. Another group of activities include organized events such as academic colloquia, I'm not sure how to say that, and guest lectures. Finally, nearly all the IC centers, scholarships, and travel abroad programs. Okay, so they love that. They get to travel abroad. Okay, that was just another example of community-based harassment. Okay, we did the neighborhood watch. We did the terrorist. Now, here's another tool that is used, and it's a social media program, and it's called Nextdoor. And Nextdoor is much like Facebook, except it is geared towards neighbors connecting. And this Nextdoor program has been known to be used with group stalking, where they can all coordinate They can all coordinate with each other. So let me read some of what that is about. Alrighty. All right. It's one of the social media sites that encourages personal over digital relationships with the aim of not only making for a better block party on the 4th of July, but also fostering trust in communities and making neighborhoods from Palo Alto to Denver safer. More than 57,000 neighbors have joined the social network, and the startup last month raised $100 million from investors. Okay, so I'm going to go on down. This was a question and answer between the author of this article and the owner of this social media site, and again, it's called Nextdoor. Okay, there were all these great ways for people to communicate far and wide across the globe, and yet technology hadn't been used to help us communicate with the people right next door. You spend so much time in your local community. They're usually where people put down roots. They buy homes, renovate homes, start families, their kids go to school. Wouldn't it be beautiful if the targeted community was able to enjoy life the way they just described it here? That would just be beautiful if we could just be left in peace to live our lives the way they just described this. Let me read that again. People put down roots, buy homes, renovate homes, start their families, and their kids go to school. Wow, what a concept, huh? Yet that notion of knowing who your neighbors are and having a connection with them, it seems somewhat old-fashioned in these times because people are very busy. Most people don't know their neighbors. This is all the description of this Nextdoor program. For us, it's really all about using technology from social media, but applying it to the concept of really bringing back that sense of community to the neighborhood. Okay, so here's a question that this author of this article asked the guy from this Nextdoor app. Do you have any data to show that Nextdoor has contributed to safer neighborhoods? And his answer was, police believe very strongly that if you can start a dialogue with residents, there's better communication with the police department. Okay? But equally important, residents are talking to each other. They know each other. So if they see something unusual, they're going to say something. Back to that see something, say something. And next door, we are taking that notion of community policing and looking for your neighbor and using technology to make it more readily available so you have more eyes and ears on the community. Okay? That's an undercover word for saying more snitches in the community. Basically, that's what that sentence meant. Taking the notion of community policing and looking out for your neighbor and using technology, and technology, as you all know, is highly used now in all of this, to make it more readily available so that you have more eyes and ears on the community. And they use these social medias to say, I need you to go over here and watch this person. I need you to go over there. I need you to do that. This is how they get their communication out, through these social networks. Nextdoor gives communities the tool to form a neighborhood watch, or neighborhood watch stuff. Sacramento, which is here in California, has seen a 14.9% decrease in the crime rate citywide in the past year, and in the past year and a half since it rolled out Nextdoor. And that's great. If it reduces the crime rate, that's great. But just leave innocent people alone. That's my thing. The challenge in addressing crime in a neighborhood this way is that it can lead to racial profiling, derogatory speech, and racist commentary. Okay, so this is the person who's asking the questions of this guy who created this app. He said the challenge in addressing crime in a neighborhood this way is that it can lead to racial profiling, derogatory speech, and racist commentary. Some people have found this to be an issue on Nextdoor. What can be done to address it? Okay, so then the person who created the app says, fortunately, we have not seen this to be a problem. Lies. We see this being brought up as an issue like 0.01% of the time. It's a very isolated situation. Lies, lies, lies. Okay, so I think that was my last one. Oh, actually, I do have one more. I was hoping this video wouldn't be long, but I knew it would be. Okay, so this was an old New York Times article. Wait, is this the one I wanted to do? Let's see. No, Washington Post. Old Washington Post article. Let me go back. And it's called Monitoring America. Top Secret America. Monitoring America. It's very long, so let me just see if I can hit some highlights of this article. 9 years after the terrorist attack in 2001, the United States is assembling a vast domestic intelligence apparatus to collect information about Americans using the FBI, the local police, the state homeland security officers, and military criminal investigators. Okay, military is heavily involved in this as well. I'm sure targets know that. The system by far the largest and most technologically and sophisticated in the nation's history, collects, stores, and analyzes information about thousands of U.S. citizens and residents, many of whom have not been accused of any wrongdoing. Now, this was in the Washington Post. They're acknowledging that all of this data that is being collected on people, stored and analyzed on people, most of these people have not been accused of anything. And targets will tell you that. Most targets have not done anything wrong, including myself. Not a criminal, never been a criminal, never planned to be a criminal. But these people behind this program want to make sure that every single person walking the face of this earth has some sort of criminal activity attached to them or mental health attached to them. It's wicked. It's the most wicked agenda that you could think of. Who thought this up? It has to be some Satanists, some sadistic, psychopathic individuals. This is just crazy to want to have something on everybody that will implicate them in some sort of crime or attach them to some sort of mental health issues that are not there. That's all bogus. And if it is there, they probably created it in some people because of all of the harassment campaigns and all of the things that they do to people. They want to make sure that everybody is in their system in some kind of way. And it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. The system, by far the largest and most technologically sophisticated in the nation's history, collects, stores, and analyzes information about thousands of U.S. citizens and residents, many of whom have not been accused of any wrongdoing. That's very important to note. Most of these people in this program have not been accused of any wrongdoing, because if they had done something wrong, they would have locked them up in jail. And they would still be there. And some of them they have locked up illegally, set them up. It's just sickening. It's sickening. It's so sickening. The government's goal is to have every state and local law enforcement agency in the country feed information to Washington to buttress the work of the FBI, which is in charge of terrorism investigations in the United States. So wherever you live in the U.S., they're feeding information to the FBI in Washington, D.C. I could go on and on about this because now I'm thinking about this guy. I forget his name. He has a YouTube video. He is an activist. And he's saying how he did a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, where supposedly you can write to the government and you can request any information, any investigation that they have on you, and they're supposed to disclose that because that's supposed to be public information. However, when targets try to get a copy of their FOIA request, it usually comes back with a chain letter that says the information is classified, so you really don't get anything. But there are a few people who have been able to get some information. So this particular guy, he said he had to get an attorney, so maybe that's the key to getting your information if you're interested in doing that. But he said he had to get an attorney to get his information. And what he found was that so many people in his life, and as I said, he was an activist, so he was in the activist community a lot. But so many people in his life had were actually sent into his life, and they were actually working for the FBI. And he was just astounded. He was astonished by it, by the fact that these people who he thought were friends for all these years were actually agents. And he went on to say in his video that they had disclosed in this FOIA request that the FBI had gone through his trash when he would sit out his garbage every week. They had gone through his garbage. They had sifted through things in his garbage, collected, things that he had thrown away that was garbage to him, but it was information for them. So it's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous that this stuff happens to innocent citizens. They tell you have freedom of speech, but we all know that's a lie, because when he exercised his freedom of speech, his freedom to assemble, I think he was an animal rights activist or something like that, not quite sure. But when he exercised those supposed freedoms, look what it got him. It got the FBI going through his it's ridiculous. Never mind. Excuse me. Let me finish this video. Okay. Other democracies, Britain and Israel, to name two, are well acquainted with such domestic security measures. But for the United States, the sum of these new activities represent a new level of government scrutiny. This localized intelligence apparatus is part of a larger top secret America. And this country, this article is very accurate in the title, Top Secret America, because this country is based on secrets. It's based on secrets, and you can do your research on that. That's a whole nother story, but it is based on secrets. So this is a very accurate title for this article. Okay, this localized intelligence apparatus is part of a larger top secret America created since the attacks. In July, the Washington Post described an alternative geography of the United States, one that has grown so large, unwieldy, and secretive that no one knows how much money it costs, how many people it employs, or how many programs exist within it. And like I said, I just came up with a few programs that I shared here today, because there are many, I'm sure, that most of us don't know about. You do have people like Ted Gunderson and some other people who worked for the FBI or the military that kind of expose some of this. But for the most part, we have no idea how vast and how deep the rabbit hole goes. We have no idea. We would probably fall down if we heard all the things that really, really, really go on behind the scenes. Today's story, along with related material on the Post website, examines how Top Secret America plays out at the local level. It describes a web of 3,984 federal, state, and local organizations, each with its own counterterrorism responsibilities and jurisdictions. At least 934 of these organizations have been created since the 2001 attacks or became involved in counterterrorism for the first time after 9/11. And this article also gives a database where you can find the counterterrorism efforts in your own community. The month-long investigation, based on nearly 100 interviews and 1,000 documents, found that technologies and techniques honed for use on the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan had migrated into the hands of law enforcement agencies in America. Now, let me ask you this. Why does your local law enforcement agency need technologies, weapons, and why are they using techniques that are used at war on the local citizens? If you remember, not long ago in Ferguson, Missouri, all of the military tanks and hand grenades and those type things that they used to disperse the crowds, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I remember looking at the television saying, "Is this America?" The police departments of America has become so militarized. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that though. Okay. The FBI is building a database with the names and certain personal information such as employment history of thousands of U.S. citizens and residents whom a local police officer or a fellow citizen believed to be acting suspicious. Well, first of all, let's just go back to this suspicious, the people acting suspicious. One of the goals of this program, one of the many, is to instill fear and paranoia in the target. I have come across many targets that people may consider to be acting suspicious, and that is because they are so they have so much fear instilled in them, and they are so paranoid because of all the tactics used on them, and they're so sensitized to certain different stimuli that other people may deem them as being a person who's acting suspicious. But that doesn't make them a criminal. If they were not being constantly harassed, followed, stalked, hit with directed energy, they would not be acting paranoid. They would not be acting suspicious. But because they're being targeted, it is making them appear to be odd or suspicious. So this is just a whole sick and twisted program. It really is. The things they're instilling in you, they want to condemn you for and lock you in a mental institution. It's ridiculous. I'm trying to talk with a calm voice because this kind of stuff really is upsetting. To just know the level of evil that exists here. It's just sickening. Okay. Seeking to learn more about Islam and terrorism, that's another group they really bothered a lot, the Islamic community, particularly on the East Coast. Some law enforcement agencies have hired as trainers self-described experts whose extremist views on Islam and terrorism are considered inaccurate and counterproductive by the FBI and U.S. intelligence agencies. The Department of Homeland Security sends its state and local partners intelligence reports with little meaningful guidance, and state reports have sometimes inappropriately reported unlawful meetings. The need to identify U.S.-born and naturalized citizens who are planning violent attacks is more urgent than ever. Okay. Okay. I think I'll stop there. Let me see. Let me go to, this is a really long article. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me just do this little section here. On a recent night in Memphis, a patrol car rolled slowly through a parking lot in a rundown section of town. The military-grade infrared camera on its hood moved robotically from left to right, snapping digital images of one license plate after another and analyzing each almost instantly. I saw that for the first time last week. There's a car. This particular one looked like a regular car, and he had these some kind of device all around the car, and he was going in the mall up and down each aisle scanning license plates. It could scan, it looked like at least 10 or 12 plates at once. Very interesting. He went up and down. So that's what they're describing here. The military-grade infrared camera on its hood moved robotically from left to right, snapping digital images of one license plate after another and analyzing almost each instantly. Suddenly, a red light flashed on the car's screen along with the word warrant. Got a live one. Let's do it, an officer called. The streets of Memphis are a world away from the streets of Kabul, yet these days the same type of technologies and techniques are being used in both places to identify and collect information about suspected criminals and terrorists. The examples go far beyond Memphis. Handheld wireless fingerprint scanners were carried by U.S. troops during the insurgency in Iraq to register residents of entire neighborhoods. In Arizona, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Facial Recognition Unit, using a type of equipment prevalent in war zones, records 9,000 biometric digital mugshots a month. U.S. Customs and Border Protection flies General Atomics Predator drones along the Mexican and Canadian borders, the same kind of aircraft equipped with real-time full-motion video cameras that has been used in war, Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan to track the enemy. The Special Operations Unit deployed overseas to kill the Al-Qaeda leadership drove technological advances that are now expanding across the U.S. Here at home, it is the DHS that is enamored with collecting photos, video images, and other personal information about U.S. residents in hopes of teasing out terrorists. So we all have to get terrorized so that they can find the terrorists, basically, is what I'm getting out of this. The DHS helped Memphis buy surveillance cameras that monitor residents near high-crime housing projects, problematic street corners, and bridges and other critical infrastructure. It helped pay for license plate readers and defrayed some of the costs for setting up Memphis Crime Analysis Center. Altogether, it has given Memphis $11 million since 2003. Okay, so basically, this is a long article, so I'm really not going to go through the whole thing, but it's called Top Secret America if you're interested in reading it. My point was, in doing this video, is that I wanted to just kind of get behind the scenes, because if you are a victim of the gang stalking, organized stalking, community-based harassment, whatever you want to call it, all the names are interchangeable to me, you notice these offensive, rude behaviors, this stalking, this harassment in your communities. So the purpose in doing this video is that I wanted to kind of get behind the scenes, because we know on a high level what they do, and how, the tactics that they use, the street theater, the whatever they do, to synchronize, and all the stuff that they do. We know what they do in our own individual targeting. But I wanted to get behind the programs that give these people the license to torment us and to harass us, and to create these people have created this whole psychopathic society where nobody cares about anybody anymore. There used to be a strong sense of community where everyone knew everyone and was more willing to help their neighbors. But since this whole snitch psychopathic society has been created, People just don't care. They don't care how they treat you. They really don't. And it almost feels like they just enjoy seeing your suffering. You know, they don't care if it hurts you. They don't care if it destroys you. They don't care if you lose your job. They don't care if your livelihood is gone. They don't care if you're destitute and broke. They don't care if you're living under a bridge. They don't care. That's their whole goal, is to create these things and to make these things happen and to watch you lose everything and to watch all of your family be torn apart. And it's really sad. And for these people to do these things and be protected by law enforcement and the powers that be is you know, it's just not right. It's just not right. You know, so the best advice that I can give any TI going through this is, number one, no, you have not done anything wrong. As the examples that I showed you with all these programs in place, this is the world that has been created for all of us. So it's not you, it's personal, as I said in another video, but it's not personal. Everybody is under surveillance now. Everybody. Now they've honed in on the target, true enough, but this is the world we live in. So the best thing I can say is to don't take it personal. Take care of yourself in every way possible. Number one is spiritual. Get a relationship with God. Know that God will protect us from this. Know that. No weapons formed against us shall prosper, no matter what they do. No weapons of the mind, none of their electronic harassment, none of their community-based harassment, none of their ganging up on people. None of that's gonna work. Just keep yourself strong. Keep yourself strong spiritually, mentally, and physically. And that's all I wanted to talk about today. Sorry this video went so long, but there was a lot of information, and actually I could have went on for a couple more hours because there's so many programs in place to harass people, you know, to try to rid people out of society. But you don't have to be ridden out of your society. Continue to live your life. Never let these people stop you. Build yourself up as strong as you could possibly build yourself up and continue going on about your life. Do not make it that easy for them where they can just remove you from society, remove you from your community. If the people in the community don't want to deal with you, fine. But continue to go on with your life. You have a right to be out in that community, in your community, just as they have a right. They can't remove your rights from you. Now, you can surrender your rights, which many TIs have. If you want to just surrender your rights and decide to stay in the house because they're harassing you, then so be it. But you shouldn't do that. You should go on. They don't have a right. They don't have the authority to send subliminal messages, to send these threats, to say that you can't do this and you can't come there and you're not welcome here. No. Don't give in to that. Go on with your life. That's it for this video. I do plan to do more videos soon, so look out for those. God bless you all and stay strong.